What's going on, everybody? Today we're going overseas. Okay, well, not literally, but in our hearts, because we're making this super tasty Mediterranean chicken and roasted asparagus. Like most of our recipes, it's an uncomplicated, easy to make recipe you can have ready in no time, and also one that works well for those who are cutting, so let's jump in on how to make it. First thing we'll prep is the chicken, for which I have roughly 920 grams of chicken breast that you can just see I just flattened out, which will help speed up and even out the chicken's cook. To the chicken, we'll add in 1 tablespoon of red wine vinegar, the zest of 1 lemon, and then the juice of that lemon, 1 clove of grated garlic, or we can just mince it instead, 1 teaspoon of honey, 1 to 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 to 2 teaspoons of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of oregano, and then a pinch of red pepper flakes to finish this off. Now we'll mix this up, make sure everything is well coated with the seasonings, and then we can set it off to the side and let marinate for however long we have. The next thing we'll make is our sauce that'll go over the chicken. To a mixing bowl, I'm tossing in 95 grams of light sour cream. Then we'll add in 2 cloves of grated garlic, and I'd say if you're not a major garlic fan, just go with 1 clove instead, because grating it like this can intensify the flavor. Then we'll add in the squeeze of 1 lemon wedge, a pinch of salt, and lastly, a pinch of black pepper, and then we can go ahead and mix it up. Now, I won't use all of the sauce. I generally just make extra for myself for other things I'm going to cook throughout the week, but if you don't want extra, I would just say keep everything the same. Just use 50 grams of sour cream and 1 clove of garlic instead. For the asparagus, like we did last week with the broccoli, we're just going to roast them in the oven. I'm going to put roughly 1,200 grams of raw asparagus onto a sheet tray here, and you can see I just cut the asparagus in half. We'll hit this with some oil and then season with 1 to 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 to 2 teaspoons of black pepper, a pinch of red pepper flakes, and then 3 cloves of minced garlic, which I'll just scatter over the top here before we mix everything together. We'll cook this at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 minutes or so, just until the asparagus reaches your desired doneness, which can differ per person. And by the way, you can sear the asparagus in a non-stick skillet too. You don't have to use the oven. I generally just prefer the oven for meal prepping, however, because you can cook a lot all at once, so it saves you some time, but it's your choice. Speaking of searing though, it's time to cook our chicken. Very simply, over medium-high heat, we'll add the chicken to an oiled skillet and let cook until it reaches 165 internally. Nothing new here, pretty simple. Like the asparagus, you could also bake the chicken in the oven as well. Or if you have an air fryer, that'd be a convenient way to cook things too. Don't always feel like you have to cook things in a skillet like I do. However, I don't know if you can see here, but that's a mean crust on that chicken. And that's a lot of flavor, which you won't really get if you bake, so just be mindful of that. But yeah, it is a convenient way to cook, but both work. Now once all of our chicken is cooked and we give it some time to rest so it's not piping hot and burn our hands, we can then start to cut it up. And I've noted this before, but you can cut the chicken up however you like. If you want to leave them whole, you can leave them whole. If you want to cut it in bite-sized pieces, cut it that way. It really doesn't matter. I generally just cut mine into strips because I like the presentation of the strips better, but pick the cut that makes your life the easiest. Alright, now we can set our chicken off to the side until we're ready to prep. Coming back to the asparagus, mine is where I like it. This is about 15 minutes in the oven. So what I'm going to do here is simply transfer it over to a large mixing bowl. I said this when we cooked the broccoli last week, but I'm merely doing this so that it's easier to prep later. I don't want to be holding a big sheet tray in my hand as I'm trying to put asparagus in each of my containers. Unless you want a forearm workout, then you can keep it that way. Now we'll add the squeeze of 1 lemon wedge over the top and then just give the asparagus a good mix. Make sure all the seasonings are distributed evenly, and once we're there, we can go ahead and set this off to the side and prep our lunches. It's a simple procedure as always. I'm going to put in my chicken first, and I'm going to try keeping it onto one side of the container here. We'll try to tuck that in as best we can. Next thing we'll add in is the asparagus, which we'll try to nestle into the other side of the bowl here like so. After that, I'm going to spoon over some of the garlic sauce that we made earlier onto the chicken, and I'm only using 50 grams, not all of the sauce we made earlier. We'll top this with some diced Roma tomato for garnish, and then an optional but highly recommended ingredient, I'm going to add 35 grams of fat-free feta cheese for some extra flavor. I personally really love feta cheese, so I wasn't going to skip an opportunity to add it to my lunches, but it's totally optional, so don't feel like you have to add it. But just like that, we're done. It's a really easy dish, really tasty, and one that works really well for meal prep. As usual, here's the recipe and ingredient overview for the dish. Like I noted earlier, we didn't use all of the garlic sauce that we made, and so I only calculated 50 grams into the macros, so just be mindful of that depending on how much you use. But I hope you guys enjoyed the recipe. We'll definitely be back with more, so stay tuned.